I would like to thank a great woman named Ginny Thomas. Do you know Ginny Thomas? She's a great woman. The wife of a great man, Justice Clarence Thomas, for her courage and strength. She said that she still believes the 2020 election was stolen. She didn't wilt under pressure like so many others that are weak people and stupid people.
Hello everyone, it's Queen V line back to you with another video. This video pertains to the recent events surrounding current SCOTUS' spouse, Virginia Thomas, who is the wife of Clarence Thomas, as she was interviewed by the 1-6 committee last week. Prior to her interview with the 1-6 committee, a resurfaced report by the LA Times showcased that Clarence Thomas failed to disclose his wife's income of over $680,000, as she was paid by the Heritage Foundation from 2003 to 2007. Now you may be wondering, why doesn't the SCOTUS have a code of ethics? To me, this is mind-boggling, as the executive and Congress both have code of ethics. It should be wise for SCOTUS, the judicial branch, to also have their own code of ethics, because federal judges are legally required to disclose their spouse's income sources. Earlier this year, Clarence Thomas was the only SCOTUS member who voted to shield Trump's record from the 1-6 committee. Once again, Clarence Thomas, a sitting SCOTUS member, was willing to protect the twice impeached one-term grifter Donald Trump's records from the 1-6 committee. The other judges rejected the twice impeached one-term grifter's bid to block the release of the presidential records. As it pertains to Virginia Thomas's testimony to the 1-6 committee, it is being alleged that Virginia Thomas funded persons to go to the Capitol building on 1-6, which caused lives being lost and officers being injured that day, in addition to sending text messages to Mark Meadows, in addition emailing state legislators to overturning the results of the 2020 elections. Again, we have a sitting SCOTUS' spouse allegedly conspiring to an attempted coup and domestic terrorist act. You will watch this brief news clip, and I will be back with more commentary.
Continues. Today, Virginia Ginny Thomas, longtime right-wing activist and wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, was interviewed in person by the committee for 3.5 hours. I mean, it's about daggone time, since Mrs. Thomas has a lot to explain. Committee Chair Benny Thompson said that she answered some questions and expressed that she still believes the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump, which is exactly what she argued in numerous texts to then Chief of Staff Mark Meadows in the days and weeks following the election, which is around the same time Mrs. Thomas was also pressuring state lawmakers in Arizona and Wisconsin to choose their own fake electors. And of particular interest to the committee, Mrs. Thomas's emails with Trump lawyer John Eastman, who came up with the plot to keep Trump in power in his infamous coup memo, urging Vice President Mike Pence to simply overturn the election all by himself. It is also worth noting that John Eastman once clerked for Clarence Thomas. Regarding her interview today, Ginny Thomas's attorney released a statement saying, quote, she answered a lot of the committee's questions, as she told the committee her minimal and mainstream activity focused on ensuring that reports of fraud and irregularities were investigated. Beyond that, she played no role in any events in the 2020 election results, unquote. Weird use of the word mainstream. Joining me now is Nick Ackerman, former Assistant Special Watergate Prosecutor and a former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Thank you for being here, Nick. You know, this is so unusual. It's sui generis. There is I can't even name the wife of or spouse of any other Supreme Court justice ever in history. This woman has been a longtime right-wing activist, and she seemed to have been actively involved, including emailing her husband's former clerk, John Eastman. What do you make of all of it, and what do you think the probative value of talking to her might have been?
Well, it's hard to say what the probative value is going to be. I mean, my big question is, who asked her to call these legislators in Wisconsin and Arizona to get them to basically vote in these fake Trump electors? That's my big question. I mean, that's the part that is really concerning. I mean, she could not have done that on her own. It's hard to believe that she was acting as a free agent there. And the other big concern, obviously, is that she's a wife of a Supreme Court justice. And Clarence Thomas, while she was doing all this, he was the one dissenting vote when the January 6th committee was trying to get all of Trump's records from the White House that were at the archives. And he was the only one that dissented. And then when Pennsylvania the Republicans tried to appeal the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, which gave an extra 3 days to count votes, not a big deal, considering the circumstances. He went on and wrote this dissent that basically banned, absentee ballots, and basically came up with this idea that there's more chances for fraud with absentee ballots than regular voting. All of which is absolutely crazy, but it's the same thing that she's been espousing. So you've got a real conflict of interest here. It's just very unusual. I can't remember any situation in the court where a spouse has taken a political view that's basically right on the money with her husband, and they both claim they never talk about this stuff, which I find completely absurd.
And I'll note that Chairman Thompson did say that she was a witness. They weren't accusing her of anything. They would include something if there's something of merit, they'll include it in the next hearing. That's the notes from Chairman Benny Thomas. But you just named the less cuckoo things that she was doing. Here are some of the things that she was texting to the chief of staff to the president, Mark Meadows. This is 2 days after the election. Quote, Biden crime family and ballot fraud co-conspirators are being arrested and detained for ballot fraud right now in over coming days and will be living in barges off Gitmo to face military tribunals for sedition.
It's the white privilege for me that Virginia Thomas and other white women continue to hold water for the guardians of Putin and are willing to suppress the progress of the American people. In addition, Virginia Thomas's group helped to overturn the ending of Roe v. Wade in June. Can you imagine? A sitting SCOTUS spouse is aiding in overturning democracy as we know it. The guardians of Putin are making sure to elect and place persons within our branches of government to deny the American people progress. Again, America, this is not a drill, and we are in danger. As Americans, we have an opportunity to change this around. On November 8th, 2022, we have numerous elections on the federal, state, and local levels. If your state allows early voting, please take advantage. If your state allows absentee ballot voting, please take advantage, because elections have consequences. Elections matter. Please be safe out here, and I will see you in the next video.